I'm Matteo. I am a plant pathologist and a mycologist at the University of California, Berkeley. And I work mostly on fungi that cause plant diseases, but I also work on beneficial fungi.
Okay.
Fungi actually are they represent their own kingdom, so they're being considered to be different enough from other organisms. Originally they were considered part of plants, so they were studied by botany. So in reality it turns out they actually are more closely related to animals than they are to plants, but they represent their own phylum, completely distinct. And within that phylum fungi there's several very distinct groups that have very different characteristics as well. Well, they live a little bit everywhere, so there's a lot of fungi that are present in the air. The ones that we're interested in particular are fungi that are present in plants, and they can do several things in plants. They can either cause disease or they can be symbiotic. So normally in the roots, what they do, they are part of a symbiosis that allows most plants to actually absorb nutrients much better and much more easily. It's been shown that without this symbiosis, most trees would be fairly small, so that they would be limited in their growth rates by the scarcity of these minerals. And then there's also a group of fungi that are very important in tropical systems that are endophytic. And these endophytic fungi, we don't fully understand what their complete role is, but there are several instances where it's been shown that endophytism by fungi prevents herbivory. So it gives a competitive advantage to the plant that has the symbiosis with the fungus. Or for instance, it may even prevent infection by other fungi, so it may prevent most plant diseases. So we know there's some beneficial outcome of the interaction between endophytic fungi and plants, but we don't fully understand the entire range of them. The Biocode project on the island of Moorea provides an opportunity to give maybe better estimates of fungal diversity in the world in general. Really, fungi probably is one of the least understood and least known groups of living organisms on the face of the earth. We estimated, and maybe some other people have estimated, that there may be between 2 and like 8 million fungi, depending on the estimate. But that's always, been done with a lot of approximation. What is nice about this system, it's a closed system, and floral diversity is being determined pretty well. Or plant diversity, sorry, and so we think that we may be able to come with some ratios between plants and fungi that may provide some insight on overall fungal diversity, not just for the island, but also for the outside. We did some preliminary work, but that was working exclusively with soil fungi. And looking at what we're getting from the soil, potentially we could come up to numbers in the tens of thousands. Okay, so potentially, but it could also be that maybe the soil samples were highly skewed in one direction, and then when we combine everything else, from the plants, we may find less diversity than we think. We're also limited in what we're doing because we are mostly working on woody dominant plants as a first cut. So that's what we'll be able to describe. But we'll be able to make hypothesis, we'll be able to make predictions of what the overall numbers could be, but we won't be able to describe the overall number.
And do you have a first estimation?
I think we estimated 20,000. That was that was our estimate.
From Moorea?
From Moorea, yeah. So we'll see whether that holds up, or again, it could be a lot less, or it could be a lot more. Conceptually, it's exciting to have every single major group of organisms being studied at the same time in a place where it is actually feasible to come up with some good estimates of overall diversity because of its insular nature and because of its relatively small size, but not too small, so it actually, ecologically speaking, there's enough diversity within the island that it makes it worthwhile studying. It's not just a rock in the middle of the ocean. On the other hand, it's also, from my perspective, I can't really enjoy what everybody else is doing because we're so busy doing our own part of the work. So I'm sure that I'll enjoy the integrated component of all the groups at the end once we're done, once we're done with the work. But I think that's really the exciting thing. And this is my second experience in a tropical lab, doing cutting edge genetic analysis in the tropics. And this is 20 years later, so things have advanced. I must say that it's a unique opportunity because we do have a lot of really cutting edge tools here. So we have the equipment, and I'm sure the setting up the lab must have been very challenging. But I think we're very lucky because we're probably better off than most other people that want to directly, do this kind of studies in situ on the place. And to give an example, most of the stuff that we do, we have a very short window of opportunity to analyze the plant material because it wilts and it rots really rapidly. And so it's absolutely essential for us to have a lab like the lab here at the station where, an hour after we come back from the field, we can already start going through the material and analyzing it. So it's working out really well. I think it really provides us with this great opportunity.
Mm-hmm.